Imagine dedicating your entire life to groundbreaking inventions, only to die alone, virtually forgotten, and without a penny to your name. That was the tragic reality for Nikola Tesla, January 7th, 1943. Room 3327, Hotel New Yorker, New York City. A maid enters to clean. She finds an elderly man lying motionless on his bed. He is 86 years old. His body is thin, emaciated. The room smells of pigeon droppings. On the windowsill sits a basket, seeds scattered everywhere. The window is open despite the winter cold. A white pigeon perches on the ledge, watching. The man on the bed is dead. His name is Nikola Tesla. In his lifetime, he held over 300 patents. His inventions powered the modern world. Alternating current, the Tesla coil, radio, wireless communication, the foundation of everything we use today. And yet he died with nothing. The hotel management will discover he owes over $2,000 in unpaid rent. His possessions fit into 2 small trunks. No money, no estate, no family to claim his body. How does this happen? How does a man who should have been the world's first billionaire end up dying penniless in a hotel room, surrounded by pigeons? This isn't just a history lesson. This is a deep dive into the heart-wrenching personal and historical factors that led to this brilliant man's impoverished final moments. We're not here to blame Edison. We're not here to romanticize Tesla as a misunderstood martyr. We're here to understand the truth. The complex web of choices, circumstances, and character flaws that turned one of history's greatest minds into one of its most tragic figures. This is the real reason Nikola Tesla died penniless. The enigma of genius and destitution. Myth we tell ourselves. The story we usually hear goes like this. Tesla was a pure genius. Edison was a ruthless businessman who stole his ideas. Greedy investors exploited him. The world wasn't ready for his brilliance. Poor Tesla. Victimized. Betrayed. A martyr for science. It's a compelling narrative. It's also incomplete. Yes, Edison was difficult. Yes, investors were cautious. Yes, the world struggled to understand some of his concepts, but the truth is far more complex and far more human. Tesla wasn't just a victim of circumstance. He was an active participant in his own financial destruction. This isn't about tearing down a hero. It's about understanding him, because the seeds of his poverty were planted long before his final years in that hotel room. 84. The arrival, when Nikola Tesla stepped off the boat at Ellis Island in 1884, he owned almost nothing, 4 cents in his pocket. A letter of recommendation to Thomas Edison, a book of poetry. That's it. He was 28 years old, Serbian-born, educated in Europe, brilliant. He went to work for Edison. The partnership lasted less than a year. The split is often portrayed as a battle between good, Tesla, visionary of AC power, and evil, Edison, defender of inferior DC power. But it was more mundane than that. They had fundamentally different approaches to invention. Edison was practical, iterative. He tried thousands of variations until something worked. He cared about marketability. Tesla was theoretical. He visualized inventions complete in his mind before building them. He cared about perfection. Neither approach was wrong, but they were incompatible. Tesla left Edison's employment and struck out on his own. Within a few years, he would develop the alternating current motor that would change the world, and that's where his financial journey truly begins. 88. The Westinghouse Deal in 1888. George Westinghouse, inventor of the air brake and founder of Westinghouse Electric, heard about Tesla's AC motor patents. Westinghouse recognized genius when he saw it. He traveled to New York to meet Tesla personally. They struck a deal. Tesla would receive $60,000 cash, worth about $1.4 million today, 150 shares of Westinghouse stock, a $2,000 per month salary, and most importantly, $2.50 royalty per horsepower of electrical capacity sold using his AC motor. Think about that royalty structure. Every AC motor Westinghouse sold would put money directly into Tesla's pocket. Forever. By 1890, Tesla was a millionaire. At age 34, $1 million in 1890 would be worth about $25 million today. Tesla was set for life. His inventions were revolutionizing industry. His royalties were flowing. His fame was growing. He should have become the wealthiest inventor in history. So what went wrong? 1907, the decision that changed everything. By 1907, Westinghouse Electric was over $10 million in debt and teetering on bankruptcy. The war with Edison's DC system had been expensive. The economic conditions were brutal. Westinghouse was drowning. George Westinghouse came to Tesla with a desperate plea. Could Tesla temporarily reduce his royalties, just until the company recovered? If Westinghouse went bankrupt, Tesla would lose everything anyway. Trying to collect royalties from bank creditors would be impossible. Tesla listened to the man who had believed in him when no one else would. The man who had bankrolled his dreams. The man who had turned his AC motor into an industry standard. And then Tesla tore up the contract. On the spot. He relinquished his royalties entirely. In return, Westinghouse paid Tesla a lump sum of $216,600, worth roughly $5.4 million today, for the right to use his AC patents in perpetuity. This moment, the single decision, this is where Tesla's financial destruction truly begins. Let's be clear about what he gave up. Bankers at the time estimated the value of his patents at $12 million, equivalent to $300 million today. And that was just the immediate value. Over the next decade, AC power would become the global standard. Had Tesla held on to his royalties, he would have easily become one of the wealthiest people on the planet. Some estimates suggest he would have been the world's first billionaire. Instead, he walked away with $216,600 and a handshake, the Westinghouse myth. What really happened now? Here's where we need to separate myth from reality. The popular story, repeated in books, movies, and articles, is that Tesla ripped up his contract in a moment of pure generosity, that he sacrificed billions to save his friend Westinghouse. It's a beautiful story. It's also not entirely accurate. The truth is more complex. In 1896, Westinghouse had already paid Tesla a lump sum of $216,600 specifically to eliminate the royalty payments. This wasn't 1907, it was 11 years earlier. The dramatic tearing up the contract scene. That story first appeared in a 1943 biography by John O'Neill, published the same year Tesla died. O'Neill was a friend of Tesla's and may have romanticized the events. Does this mean Tesla wasn't generous? No, he absolutely gave up a fortune. But the decision wasn't as spontaneous or as selfless as legend suggests. It was a negotiated business deal. Tesla needed cash. His laboratory had just burned down in 1895, and he needed money to rebuild. He chose a large lump sum over long-term royalties. It was a choice, and it was the wrong one. Why? Because Tesla would immediately burn through that money chasing dreams that would never materialize. The seeds of self-sabotage. The visionary, isolated Tesla wasn't just an inventor. He was a prophet. He saw the future with crystalline clarity. He knew what was possible decades before the technology existed to make it real. Wireless communication, radio, remote control, radar, robotics. He envisioned them all. But here's the problem. Believing you see the future doesn't mean investors will fund it. Tesla's fundamental flaw was his refusal to compromise. He didn't want to build what was commercially viable today. He wanted to build what would be revolutionary tomorrow. This sounds noble. It's also financially suicidal. Let me give you an example. In the 1890s, Tesla could have made millions commercializing his existing patents. The AC motor alone was worth a fortune. He could have started manufacturing companies, licensed his technology strategically, built a business empire. Instead, he spent his time giving public demonstrations of wireless lighting. He lit up glass tubes without wires, stunning audiences. It was spectacular. It was also useless commercially. Nobody knew what to do with it. There was no market, no application, just amazement. Tesla didn't care. He was proving a concept, showing what was possible. Caring about profitability to him was small-minded. This is the first seed of self-sabotage, perfection over practicality. Disdain for patents and legal protection. Tesla filed over 300 patents in his lifetime. But he was also famously careless about protecting his intellectual property. Why? Because he believed his ideas transcended ownership. Science to him belonged to humanity. Patents were a necessary evil for funding his work, not a tool for building wealth. This philosophical stance cost him dearly. Take radio, for example. Tesla demonstrated wireless communication principles years before Guglielmo Marconi. But Marconi was better at filing patents, courting investors, and claiming credit. Marconi won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1909 for contributions to wireless telegraphy. Tesla got nothing. Ironically, in 1943, the year Tesla died, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that Marconi's radio patents were invalid because they relied on Tesla's prior work. Tesla was vindicated, but he was also dead and penniless. Vindication doesn't pay rent. This is the second seed, neglecting legal protection. Tesla believed genius would be recognized on its own merits. He was wrong. The world rewards not just innovation, but ownership, marketing, and ruthless protection of intellectual property. The unproven concepts, as Tesla's fame grew, so did his ambitions, and so did his tendency to announce inventions before they were functional. He would hold press conferences describing devices that existed only in his mind: death rays, earthquake machines, wireless power transmission across oceans. Some of these concepts were theoretically sound. Others were questionable. The problem? Investors and collaborators couldn't tell the difference. And after being burned a few times by promises that didn't materialize, they stopped believing him. By the early 1900s, Tesla had developed a reputation. Brilliant, yes, but unreliable. A man who promised the moon and delivered, well, sometimes nothing at all. This is the third seed, alienating investors through unproven claims. When Tesla genuinely needed funding for viable projects, investors remembered the times he'd promised them revolutionary technology that never arrived. They walked away. A web of broken deals and bad bets, the Wardenclyffe dream. This is where Tesla's financial destruction accelerates. In 1900, Tesla pitched J.P. Morgan, one of the most powerful financiers in America, on a new project. A tower that could transmit wireless messages across the Atlantic Ocean. It would compete with Marconi's wireless telegraph. Morgan agreed to invest $150,000, equivalent to about $5 million today. Construction began in 1901 on a site in Shoreham, Long Island. The project was called Wardenclyffe, but Tesla had a secret. He wasn't just building a wireless telegraph. He was building something far more ambitious: a global system for transmitting electrical power wirelessly. Free energy for the entire world. He didn't tell Morgan this. He knew Morgan wouldn't fund it. Why? Because Morgan immediately realized that wireless power transmission that was free worldwide would be difficult to monetize. How do you charge people for electricity if it's transmitted freely through the air? But Tesla pushed forward anyway. The design called for a tower 187 feet tall, grounded 300 feet into the earth, topped with a massive copper dome. The scale was enormous. The engineering was unprecedented, and Tesla severely underestimated the costs. The fatal flaw construction began in September 1901, but money ran short almost immediately. Economic conditions were causing material prices to rise. Tesla's design required constant modifications. He went back to Morgan, begging for more money, promising that Wardenclyffe would be superior to Marconi's system. Then disaster struck. In December 1901, Marconi successfully transmitted the letter S in Morse code across the Atlantic Ocean. He beat Tesla to the punch. With a simpler, cheaper system, Morgan was furious. He had invested $150,000 for a wireless telegraph. Marconi had just proven it could be done for far less. And Tesla was now admitting his real goal was wireless power, something Morgan never agreed to fund. Morgan refused to invest another penny. Tesla was stuck. He had a half-built tower, no money to finish it, no other investors willing to take the risk. The panic of 1907 made fundraising even harder. He tried everything. He wrote letters. He gave press interviews. He promised revolutionary breakthroughs just around the corner. Nobody believed him anymore. The collapse by 1906, the Wardenclyffe project was effectively dead. Tesla had poured everything into it. His reputation, his credibility, his money. In 1917, the tower was demolished for scrap to pay Tesla's debts. The dreams of wireless power died with it. But here's the crucial question. Was Wardenclyffe ever going to work? The answer is, maybe. Sort of. Not really. Tesla's concept of wireless power transmission through the Earth and atmosphere wasn't entirely wrong. Modern physics confirms that you can transmit small amounts of power wirelessly over short distances. We do it today with wireless charging pads, but transmitting large amounts of power over long distances? The energy losses would be catastrophic. The efficiency would be abysmal. It would never be commercially viable. Tesla neglected to carefully study how things scale, based on his ability to light a bulb at a distance of 60 feet. He erroneously calculated that using the same method he should easily be able to light one at a distance of many miles. He was a genius. But he was also wrong, and his refusal to accept this destroyed him financially. The elusive government contracts. After Wardenclyffe collapsed, Tesla chased other big projects. Government contracts, military applications, revolutionary weapons. In the 1930s, he announced the development of a teleforce weapon, a particle beam projector that could destroy aircraft from hundreds of miles away. The press called it a death ray. Tesla claimed it was powerful enough to destroy 10,000 airplanes at a swoop. The U.S. military was interested. Sort of. They asked for demonstrations. Tesla couldn't provide them. He wanted funding first to build a prototype. The military wanted proof before funding. Stalemate. This pattern repeated throughout Tesla's later years. He would announce a breakthrough, generate press coverage, approach investors or government agencies. They would ask for proof. He would say he needed money to build proof. They would walk away. The cycle became self-reinforcing. Each failed promise made the next one harder to fund. By the 1930s, Tesla was a punchline. The mad scientist living in a hotel, making wild claims, feeding pigeons. The tragedy is that some of his ideas were sound. But his credibility was gone. The mind's unraveling, the increasing eccentricity. We need to talk about Tesla's mental health. Not to mock him, but to understand how it contributed to his financial collapse. Tesla suffered from severe obsessive-compulsive disorder. He washed his hands 3 times in a row. He walked around buildings 3 times before entering. He was obsessed with the number 3, hence his final hotel room, 3327. He hated pearls so intensely that he refused to speak to women wearing them. He couldn't stand round objects. The sight of a pearl would almost give me a fit, he wrote. These weren't charming quirks. They were debilitating compulsions that affected his ability to function socially and professionally. As he aged, the compulsions worsened. He became reclusive, paranoid. He believed people were stealing his ideas. He trusted no one. This made business relationships impossible. Investors need trust. Collaborators need communication. Tesla offered neither, the pigeon obsession, and then there were the pigeons. Starting in the 1920s, Tesla began spending hours each day feeding pigeons in Bryant Park and outside St. Patrick's Cathedral. He would bring injured pigeons back to his hotel room to nurse them. Hotels began evicting him. He was kicked out of the St. Regis, the Hotel Pennsylvania, and the Hotel Governor Clinton, all because of pigeon droppings and complaints about the mess. Finally, in 1933, Westinghouse Electric, the company he had saved decades earlier, began paying his bills at the Hotel New Yorker. Out of loyalty, out of pity, Tesla kept the windows of room 3327 open year-round. He set up baskets for the pigeons to nest. He prepared custom seed mixes. He once asked hotel kitchen staff to prepare special seed blends for his birds. And then there was the white pigeon. Tesla claimed he fell in love with one particular white pigeon that visited him regularly. I loved that pigeon as a man loves a woman, and she loved me, he said. In 1922, the white pigeon flew into his room close to death. According to Tesla, there came a light from her eyes, powerful beams of light, more intense than I had ever produced by the most powerful lamps in my laboratory. When she died, he said, something went out of my life. I knew my life's work was finished. Was this a hallucination? A metaphor? Genuine belief? We can't know. But what's clear is that by this point, Tesla had withdrawn completely from the world of business, invention, and commerce. His days were spent feeding pigeons and writing theoretical papers that no one published. He had become the mad scientist that the public imagined, and that public perception, combined with his genuine eccentricity, made it impossible for him to secure funding or resurrect his career. The shift in focus. Tesla's later writings became increasingly theoretical, esoteric. He wrote about cosmic rays, the nature of matter, philosophical speculations about the universe. These weren't bad ideas, but they weren't commercially viable. They didn't generate patents. They didn't attract investors. He had moved from practical applications, the AC motor, the Tesla coil, to abstract theories that few people understood and fewer cared about. His mind was still active, Still brilliant. But it was no longer focused on things that could generate income. This is crucial to understanding his poverty. Tesla didn't stop working. He worked until the day he died. But his work stopped being monetizable decades before his death. The final years by 1940, Tesla was living entirely on charity. Westinghouse Electric paid his hotel bills. He had no other income. He gave occasional press interviews. He made occasional wild claims. But mostly, he was forgotten. On January 7, 1943, he was found dead in room 3327. He was 86 years old. Dr. Tesla died as he had spent the last years of his life alone, the hotel spokesman said. Except he wasn't alone. The window was open. The pigeons were there. The FBI confiscated his papers, concerned they might contain weapons designs. Most were returned later to his family. Many contained theories that were brilliant but unfinished. He owed the hotel over $2,000. His possessions were auctioned to cover the debt. Nobody came to his funeral. The man who had powered the modern world died forgotten and penniless. The legacy beyond the ledger reframing, penniless. So what have we learned? Why did Nikola Tesla die penniless? Not because Edison stole from him. Not because investors were greedy. Not because the world didn't recognize his genius. He died penniless because of a series of choices he made. He gave up his royalties. Whether it was noble generosity or a bad business deal, the result was the same. He traded long-term wealth for a lump sum that he immediately spent on doomed projects. He chased perfection over profit. He refused to commercialize what worked. He only wanted to build what was revolutionary. That's admirable. It's also financially disastrous. He underestimated costs and overestimated support. Wardenclyffe should have been a red flag. When you can't fund your vision, maybe the vision needs to change. Tesla never accepted this. He neglected legal protections. He believed genius would be recognized. He was wrong. The world rewards ownership, not just innovation. His mental health deteriorated. The OCD, the paranoia, the reclusiveness, these weren't character flaws. They were symptoms of illness. But they made collaboration impossible and alienated potential supporters. He lost credibility through unfulfilled promises. After Wardenclyffe, after the death ray claims, after decades of almost their projects, nobody believed him anymore. These aren't the actions of a victim. They're the actions of a brilliant man who happened to be terrible with money, terrible with people, and increasingly unwell. The enduring impact. But here's what matters. Being penniless doesn't mean being worthless. Tesla died broke, but his inventions power our world. Alternating current is the global standard. The Tesla coil is still used in radio technology. His concepts of wireless communication laid the groundwork for Wi-Fi, cell phones, and the internet. The unit of magnetic flux density is called the Tesla in his honor. A major electric car company bears his name. Scientists, engineers, and inventors still study his work. His financial poverty tells us nothing about his intellectual wealth. The legacy he left behind is priceless. Would he have been happier if he'd played the game differently? If he'd been more practical, more business-minded? If he'd held on to those royalties? Maybe. Probably. But would he have been Tesla? Would he have pushed boundaries the way he did? Would he have imagined wireless power transmission when everyone else was still figuring out wired lighting? Maybe not. There's a cost to genius. Sometimes that cost is measured in dollars and cents. Sometimes it's measured in loneliness and pigeons. Tesla paid both costs. Call to action. We need to reevaluate how we tell historical narratives. Tesla wasn't a martyr. He was a complex human being who made choices, some brilliant, some disastrous. Understanding those choices doesn't diminish him. It makes him real. We love the myth of the misunderstood genius, the lone inventor fighting against a corrupt system. It's a powerful story, but the truth is messier and more important. Because when we mythologize failure as noble suffering, we ignore the actual lessons. The real warnings about stubbornness, about mental health, about the importance of balancing vision with practicality. Tesla's story isn't follow your dreams no matter what. Its dreams require strategy, support, and sometimes compromise. That doesn't make him less admirable. It makes him more human. The final image, room 3327. Hotel New Yorker, a window left open, seeds on the windowsill. An old man who once held the future in his hands, now feeding pigeons. The world had moved on. Technology had advanced. The wireless communication Tesla envisioned had become reality, just not the way he planned. And there, in that hotel room, Nikola Tesla died. Penniless but not worthless. Forgotten but not erased. Alone but not unloved, at least not by the pigeons. The alternating current he invented still powers your home. The wireless principles he discovered still connect you to the world. The transformer technology he pioneered still runs modern electronics. Every time you turn on a light, you're using Tesla's legacy. So was he penniless? In dollars, yes. In impact, never. The question isn't, why did Tesla die poor? The question is, what does it cost to change the world? For Nikola Tesla, it cost everything, and somehow, impossibly, he paid it.